Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's lecture where we'll discuss the simulation theory. We just got done watching The Matrix to get ready for the midterm, and it seems a little far-fetched that we ourselves could be in a matrix, right? It seems really far-fetched that we are living in some sort of simulated world. But as you saw in the introduction to this lecture, there are lots of prominent people who have this belief that there's a really good chance that right now we are in a simulation. That all of this, all of your entire room, your entire personal history, you are all a simulation running on some super computing device. So why do they believe this? Why do they think there's a good chance we're in a simulation? Well, a lot of this stems from the paper I had you read on Nick Bostrom's argument. All right, his argument is really one of probability that's trying to argue that there's a really good chance that we're living right now in a simulation. So the goal for today is for you to be able to articulate that argument in your own words. Why is it that Bostrom believes we are most likely in a simulation? So to start out, we need to be aware of Bostrom's trilemma. Okay, so Bostrom is going to lay out three claims about the future, and he's going to say one of these three scenarios has to be true, right? One of these three scenarios that he will lay out has to be true. The first scenario, the probability of advanced humans who will one day be able to run advanced answer simulations is 0%. In other words, one scenario is that there is at no point in our future any future humans that could run advanced simulations that look and feel like this. Okay. Second scenario, the probability of advanced humans who will one day be able to run simulations and just decide not to is 0. In other words, somewhere way down the line, future humans, they will be able to run the simulations, but they'll just choose not to do it for some reason. Maybe because they think it's unethical, maybe because they have no need to, maybe because they're not interested. Now, notice both of those first two scenarios are about future human beings not running simulations. The only other option, says Bostrom, for the future is that future humans actually do run simulations that are able to simulate something like this. This sort of world, this sort of life, these sorts of people that have this sort of awareness and consciousness. Right? One of these three, he says, has to be true. Think about that. Does that make sense to you that one of these three has to be true? Right? Either future humans can't run really advanced simulations, future humans can run them but decide not to, or future humans can run them and they do. Now, for the first two scenarios, for Bostrom and a lot of people, they seem really unlikely. Right? Let's take a look at the first scenario. What are the chances that advanced humans can't run really good simulations? Well, for a lot of people, that seems like there's no way. They should be able to do it because even right now, we are running simulations. Right now, in labs all across the world, there are simulations being run, right? There are simulations of biological growth. There are simulations on computers that are even simulating the Big Bang. Now, these computers aren't super advanced where they can simulate those processes with as much detail as quote unquote reality, but we're doing it. And we're doing it right now to learn, right? We do simulations in physics to learn about the past and chemistry and biology to learn about how things operate. I mean, we're doing these simulations now for the purposes of education and learning more about how the world works. So we have seemingly the technology to do it. Can't we imagine way, 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 way down the line? I mean, it doesn't even have to be, we don't have to set a time limit to it. We're not saying it's anytime soon. Can't you just imagine way, way, way down the line humans being able to eventually run really good simulations that feel like this sort of life? Well, the chances that they have this capability but decide not to, for a lot of people, that also seems very slim. Because wouldn't they want to learn about the past? Wouldn't they want to gain more knowledge about how the world is, like we try to gain more knowledge of how the world is? So it seems very unlikely that they have the ability to run simulations and decide not to, which just leaves us now with the third possibility that advanced humans will have the ability and will run them. Now, why is this a problem? Well, the problem is if advanced humans eventually have the ability to run advanced simulations and do, Bostrom believes there's a good chance then that we're just one of those simulated worlds that they are simulating right now. So let's take a step back and talk about this whole ancestor simulation thing, right? So if you're running a simulation, let's say you're an advanced human, 1,000, 100,000, who knows, a million years down the line, you run an advanced simulation of the past, and part of that simulation might eventually lead to something like the year 2020, right? Where there's people on planets and they take philosophy classes and they deal with the pandemic. And I mean, these future humans run a simulation of the universe where all of this is happening, right? And if they have many, many, many computers running many, many, many simulations, that means there are many, many, many simulated worlds with a whole lot of simulated people. And if these computers are really good, if the simulations are really good, then all of these people believe they're real too, just like we believe we're real. So it becomes a numbers game. It becomes a game of probability. What are the chances that amongst all of these simulated worlds with all of these simulated people who all think they're alive, we happen to be the real ones? Let's rephrase this. Think about a blue sticky. If I have a bag, empty bag, and I put one blue sticky in the bag, what are the chances that if I pull a sticky out of the bag, it's going to be a blue one? Well, it's a 100% chance, right? Because it's the only sticky in the bag. If I pull a sticky out, it's going to be the blue one. If I add another sticky, okay, I'm going to add a yellow sticky in the bag. So now I have a blue sticky and a yellow sticky in the bag. If I put my hand in the bag, what are the chances I pull out a blue one? Well, hopefully you realize it's one out of two, right? It's 50%. My chances of pulling out a blue bag decreases. What if I add two more yellow stickies? So now there's a total of four. They're all in the bag. What's the chance I pull out a blue sticky? Well, it's one out of four. It's 25%. And my odds of pulling it out decreases. The more and more yellow stickies I add to the bag, the less and less likely I pull out a blue sticky. The more and more simulated worlds that exist with simulated people, the less and less likelihood we happen to be the alive ones, the non simulated ones. So let's write this out a little bit and have a little more um, detail here. Okay, so you can think of a premise being humans create simulated worlds with simulated people, right? And you see this all the time now, not even just in science labs, but we have video games, right? We have simulated worlds in our video games. We even have games of simulations, right? Where the whole point is to simulate a life. Well, P2, it is likely that the number of simulated people in simulated worlds will outnumber real people. And in fact, I mean, who knows? Maybe even right now, with all the simulations happening, with all the video game systems and computer systems running simulations, maybe even right now, it's debatable whether or not aren't more simulated people than real people. P3, one day the processing power of a computer will surpass the human brain. So you can imagine that if you take a look at how complex computers have been getting over time, it's kind of exponential. Computers are getting really, really complex, are able to do really, really complicated computations. It could be that one day the processing power of a computer will surpass the processing power of our own biological brains. So P4, simulated people will eventually think and believe they're real people too, right? You can imagine advanced computer systems that are able to create really advanced simulations, so advanced that the people within the simulations can act and feel as if they are alive and real. Well then, Since the number of these advanced simulations or advanced simulated people will outnumber real people, there is a high chance that we are actually simulations, right? There's a really good chance that because advanced humans would or should be able to run really good simulations, there's a really good chance that we're actually in one right now. Because if you think humans could eventually run really good simulations, then there should be a really good likelihood that we're in it, right? That we're in one of those. Because the only alternative is that they either don't run the simulations because they can't, or they don't because for some weird reason they choose not to. So, says Bostrom, this is just an argument of probability. The chances are just really good that we are one of the yellow stickies and not one of the blue stickies. That we ourselves are one of those simulated people that believe they're alive when in fact they're not. So, how would you counter this argument? What sorts of objections might you have to this argument? Well, I mean, one thing you could look at would be that P4, right? Simulated people will become conscious and believe they're real people too. We looked at various physicalist depictions of the mind, and many of those, for various reasons, have problems that make people doubt whether or not computers could ever develop artificial intelligence, could ever develop awareness, could ever develop consciousness the way we feel like we do. However, we'll learn about another philosophy of mind that has a different description of the mind and the mind body problem that might make it seem way more likely that simulated people could eventually develop consciousness and awareness too. And we'll take a look at that in the next lecture.